Hi, I'm Ivy Cohn, and this is Fuki Cafe. Fuki Cafe was named after Fukushima, which is now the radioactive backdrop against which everything else is playing out, including the possibility of near-term human extinction. That makes the conversation about death even more relevant than it ever has been. This culture is not good at talking about death. In fact, they avoid it like the plague. So today, we're going to be speaking with several individuals who are in the industry, as it were, professionally involved in death and dying in a variety of ways. We're also going to be able to participate in a death conversation. We'll get into a little bit more about how this sprang up in a little while. In the meantime, welcome to Death at the Fuki, and please welcome Nandi Szabo.
Thank you for having me here.
Oh, you're very welcome, Nandi. So you tell us just a little teeny bit about how you became interested in the whole notion of death and dying.
Well, I work with people with cancer for the last 20 years, and so I had experienced many people facing death. And often when you get a diagnosis of cancer, your innocence around death, you know, the idea that, or your denial about death it stops.
Yeah.
So that was the first stage. And then as a creative art therapist, I would help people with the end-of-life issues through the arts. And so then that was through my work. And then ultimately, when I had four deaths in the course of 6 months, that put it very much in my face. And then at Sacramento City College, I have been teaching there the psychology of creativity. They asked me to take over the psychology of death and dying class in the psych department at Sacramento City College.
So you are currently an instructor.
That's right, I'm an adjunct professor at City College.
So in academia, death and dying has been on the course offerings for decades.
Absolutely. This course was taught by a gentleman named Tom Bruce for nearly 29 years before he retired, and then there were 5 units of it, so 5 different classes. So there was a great demand for it, and the classes are always filled. Now we have 3 classes at City College.
And they are always filled.
And they're always filled. Yeah.
So you have the opportunity of helping to inform and provide tools for young people.
That's right.
Predominantly your students are younger.
Well, the beauty of community college is that it's not just young people. I mean, I would say the majority, but you have people who are going back to school, and so you have a wide range.
Okay. I'm sure they bring a nice perspective
Absolutely.
to your classroom. So how have you seen this change in terms of the kinds of, well, the openness or lack thereof, the kinds of questions that your students are asking?
Well, the course deals with all levels of death and dying. We're looking at the psychological, the spiritual, the philosophical, the social, the cultural, the history, and plus their own, they come in with their own personal myths about dying and their fears. And so they come in, you know, for a myriad of reasons. They're psych majors, they're geriatric, study majors, they're sociology majors. So they come in from different angles. Some come in because they're grappling with dealing with a death in the family or someone close to them or in their community. So they come in for those reasons. And so they come in with a sense of openness, a sense of fear, a sense of curiosity, a sense of preconceived notions. And because we cover it, the interdisciplinary aspect of the course, they come out really changed.
I would imagine very changed and much more comfortable.
Right.
And able then to begin to have conversations that are not so formal in an easier fashion.
Yes.
So if you are going to share with those who are watching this some tips, some tools for having those conversations?
Tips and tools. Well, there has to be one's own comfort level with it, all right? And this is, starting from some of the very basic things that are like gifts to the family, rather than, sort of the own personal idea. I mean, we deal almost the first things we deal with is the concept of an advance directive.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea that what are your wishes, and that what a gift that is for your family if you were to die. And we start with also the idea that you could die at any moment, because for kids that are 20 years old, they're going to live forever. And so the idea of being able to talk about it from that angle first, that if I were to die, these are my wishes. I don't want extreme measures done. If I'm brain dead, these are the people I want to be my power of attorney. And so they often start talking with their parents, and their parents go la 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 la. They often don't. I don't want to hear about it. And then, with their peers, where their peers will often say, "Oh, what a depressing, awful subject," where they come in with the idea of, "No, this is really important." So the other aspect is that they have a choice, and that their families have a choice, and the idea of what does it mean to die well. And so what happens is that we even study the myth of Gilgamesh, which ultimately is saying how do you leave a legacy? Mm-hmm. So what happens more and more in the course is they are being informed. The more informed you are about death, the more informed you are about life. And so this is, again, how do we, by being informed about all the different aspects and that we are going to die and taking it out of denial, this is the way they start looking at how they're going to live their life.
Mm-hmm. Just that fabulous, effervescent embracing of life is so much richer when you have spent time contemplating your own death or someone else's death. And that, of course, always brings up contemplating our own death. The Dalai Lama once said that he meditated on his own death at least an hour every day. And I was like, I'm down for that, that sounds like a good thing. If the Dalai Lama can do it, I guess I can do it too. Sure. And yes, so the joy is much fuller and deeper when you can get to that place.
As well as really understanding, what are the choices that we're making in our life right now. And so the idea that there's ethical issues, there's suicide issues, there's things that have happened, something like Robin Williams dying. This opens up such a huge arena of conversation. Right now in California, we are being, for the first time it's actually the third time in 20 years, we have the Death with Dignity Act that's coming into focus. So the people in the class are starting to look at this and have their own debate. What does it mean for a society, for a culture, for a religion, to be able to change have their choices in dying?
Well, yes. Let's see if we can just keep sharing this kind of information and encouraging these conversations.
Right. And to know that they are by being in this class, they are changing the paradigm.
Yes.
They're the idea that we can start to have home funerals. I mean, the idea. One of my gals in the class once said, "Gosh, I always thought hospice was a secondhand store," because and the idea that what is hospice? What does it mean to have your loved one at home? What does it mean to not necessarily rely on the home funeral industry and be able to have? Not to rely on like a mortuary, that you can have your loved one at home, that you can die at home. This is, this is why we have such a denial of death, because it's been taken out of the home and it's been medicalized, and it's the idea that somebody else is supposed to undertake the responsibility for their families. And so
when we are to undertake.
And we are.
And so, yes, bringing that whole tradition of death at home, death with dignity, that it really is something that every member of the family, from young people right on through, it can be involved in. And I know that you're part of a community endeavor here that we're going to be talking
That's
about
right.
a little bit later with your cohorts from Full Circle
Full
Living and
Circle,
Dying
that's
Collective.
right.
And I just thank you so much for the work you're doing out there in academia, because you're right, those young people are changing the paradigm around this. So we'll be back in just a moment or two with our next guest for the show.